Hello.
Hello, how are you, Mario?
Okay.
All
Where are you? In your living room?
right. In the den.
On the den. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you speak to Ernie or not?
No, I'm not gonna bother him.
Okay.
He's coming home Tuesday night, I guess,
Well,
or Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning, I think. Where the hell is this? I'm not going out. I'm just trying to put the Bluetooth. The blood today is a long one.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, I hope he hurries.
But he's good at it also.
He's good,
Alex.
yeah. I understand it. He's goes nice and slow.
Oh. Here's Alan.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Alan.
Okay, everybody here?
Yeah,
Well, everybody
Okay.
that will be here is here.
that's it. This is all you got.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I can't be fussy, right? Take what I get, what you give me. Look, we're in Sadi Zion, right? Of an olive, is that what it is?
Yes, 1978.
97. Okay, so now the more says Kesad Mocheres. How does we were talking about a widow sells her husband's estate.
What does the word mujeres mean?
Let me get the 1 second. Let me just get that.
Harold, what does the word mujeres mean? Mujeres.
Sell, mojeres, to sell. The question
Yeah,
how
Mocheres is selling, yeah.
In Spanish, it's women.
Yeah, it's so it describes how she sells her husband's estate. We talked about it yesterday in the past about how she sells it in order to get herself mizonos. In other words, if her husband left over some property or some nechasim, so she can sell it in order to. So actually, it goes to the yorship. In other words, his children, the husband's children. We're usually referring to a woman who has children, whose husband has children from a different wife. In other words, they're not her children, they're stepchildren. But even still, so either way, the Yerusha goes to the sons. So the question is, how does she support herself in the meantime? So Gemara talks about how she sells it, and then she pays herself from the whatever she sold the money, that either she pays buys mazonos, which means her day-to-day living expenses, or else she for ksuba. So she either way, she can sell it. It says before with machlokas whether she can sell property for her ksuba, a movable property. It came out that only she can sell land for her ksuba, and she can sell movable stuff for mazonos for her day-to-day expenses. So now the Gemara describes how a widow sells in order for her sustenance. Case of Acheres, Omer Abdoniel, Bar Yakir can Omer Mocheres Achas L'Shloim Aser Chodesh. She sells property once in 12 months. And once in 12 months, she can sell it. Lokech Mefarnes Achas L'Shoshiro, and the purchaser provides support once every 30 days. So in other words, she sells the property to him, and he pays to her in 12 different installments. So this way she has a guarantee that she'll have mazonos for every month. It says the shisha chadashim once in 6 months. And the purchaser provides support once every 30 days. So that's how in other words, he gives her allowance, even though it's her money, but she can't take it all at one time. I guess the Chachamim wanted to protect her, so she wouldn't take all that money one time and spend it at one time. And this way she has enough to last her for either 6 months.
So as long as she remains unmarried,
that's exactly what they're saying.
And sell
Exactly
other properties also.
Right, exactly. As long as she can only sell them for her ksuba and for her mazonas. Now, whether she can get the tosfos ksuba, in other words, whatever is added on an additional, that's the machloek. You'll see later on the Gemara whether she gets money that the husband gave her as a bonus in her ksuba. Those when a man writes a ksuba, he gives her either $100 or $200, depending upon if she's a basula or not. And then he also adds extra to that. So the question is, the Gemara will say later whether she can sell her the property in order to take the extra also. But basically, everything that's left over from her husband goes to the yorship. So the question is, how do, like we said yesterday, does she want to depend upon her children or grandchildren, her stepchildren to pay her? So she wants to have the control over it. So now, Tanika Basar Buddha, we learned that she sells it once a year. She sells it for a whole year, and then he pays her 12 times every 30 months. So Tanya Kavas Rabbi Yehuda, he said the same thing. The buyer pays her once every 12 months. He pays her once every 6 months, and that's what she could sell it for. And a widow may sell property once in 6 months, and the purchase provides it once every 30 days. What's the really Rav Huna that she sells the land only once in 12 months? Why do you reject his opinion? So the Meir says, "Lo shemi, I didn't hear Lomar, lo spiritually. I don't agree with that. The orphans' property rights are better protected with shorter 6 month intervals, and the satisfaction can still be bad. So this can be had. So this actually is for the benefit of the yorship, because if she sells it for 12 months, she'll sell it for a lot more, and therefore the yorship will get less. And then you'll see they talk about if it depends, like you were saying, Mario, if she's remarried or not. If she gets remarried, then she loses everything. She loses all the support for the mazonos, not the ksuba necessarily. She still gets the ksuba. So in case he sells it for mazonos, what is the law where she may return and seize the land for her ksuba? In other words, she sells it for mazonos, and then she runs out of money for her ksuba. She never got a ksuba, whether she could go back to the person she sold it to and take it back and, renegotiate for her, because she said she never got for the ksuba. So, Rabbi Yosef, our Malta Zabed, a widow who sold her husband's property, whether the sale was to obtain her ksuba or sustenance, Achrov Ayasvi, the guarantee obligation rests upon the yorship. Beit Dina de Zabin, and likewise the case where the court sold the husband's estate. Achriso Ayasvi, the guarantee obligation rests upon the orphans. What is the law if a widow wishes to collect her ksuba from the very land that she once sold to pay for sustenance? Given Achrios Ayasvi, since the guarantee is on the orphans, for the widow may grab the land for payment, and or do or perhaps the purchaser can tell her. Granted, you do not accept upon yourself a guarantee against a seizure by the general public. Should be low kabal kavalti. You did not accept a guarantee against seizure by yourself. Did you not accept it? In other words, you guaranteed when you sold me the property that it was free and clear afterwards. So according to this, the purchaser can claim a refund from the heirs since they assume all the
Because,
liability for the sale.
Alan, she's not really selling the land. She's making the heirs sell the land to give her money, right?
That's true. That, I mean, as eventually belongs to them, but it's in her hands to do it. She's desperate. She needs the money. So she sold like the Brickell Bridge, you know. It wasn't, but they give her permission to sell it. It's just that if somehow she takes it back because she did get a ksuba, then the yorship has to responsible to take to give refund to the people that bought their land. In other words, okay. Amarle Tanisi, you've learned the answer to that question. Mocheres Volechas al Kedei Kesubasa. Can she continually sell the property for her ksuba until she reduces the value of ksuba? The somachle and the remaining and the land shall be surety for her. In other words, it'll be her warranty. Shetigva ksubasa b'ashar. Then she'll collect her ksuba for the remainder. In other words, she can keep selling it until they pay off the whole ksuba. If the husband writes in for the ksuba $1,000, so she'll say a part of it, and she'll keep coming back and until she gets the full amount. And then the people who she sold it to will come back to the yorshim and say, we had to pay out your mother or your stepmother, so you got to reimburse us. So Shamamina Shari Ain, if she left land over, may she indeed collect it. Lo Shari, but she did not leave land over. She can't, presumably because she did not collect ksuba from the very land that she had sold for her sustenance. So Vidilma Eitz Tova Kamasha. Maybe it's not a machlokas. Maybe it's not a halacha. It's just that an Eitz Tova to the woman. They're just the best is given her Eitz Tova. So that she should not seize the land that she herself had sold, so that people don't call her a nager. However, from a strictly legal perspective, because she retrieved the property she sold herself. In case this they go with the ksuba b'shar, let it say she collects her ksuba from the raider, and leave it at that. What is meant? What is the reason? To be sure that there's something left over for her. Shemaminoshi, sheyaira ain, that if she had left land over, she may need collected. If she didn't leave land over, lo shari, she can't collect it. So it behooves her to leave land over so she can continue collecting on that land, her ksuba. Now, we discussed the law of widow who sells property from her husband's estate, wants it back, and the Gemara considers the sale of property general property. Not only from a ksuba, general property. If the student, a boy, so if a person sold land because he needed money, lowest strict losers, and then it turns out he didn't need the money, Hadra is mean that the sale is rescinded, or low Hadra, or the sale is not. In other words, it's a Bekach Tos or not. So more tells her, give me Prohatoshma, but Dagav and the Zaman Aral Papa, somebody sold land to a Papa, is Srichalu Lazuzah the Mazab and Tur. He needed to buy oxen to work his land. He didn't need to get the money. Turn the money back to him because he didn't need that. He didn't need it. So he returned the land back to him, took back his money. So we argue from legal that Papa could have retained the land for himself, but since no formal condition was articulated, Papa went beyond the letter of the law and returned the land. In other words, he did have to do it, but he just did it for Mifnei Rishos Adin. Toshma. Tahu Mitzoros and Hadroi, there was a food shortage in Nardoi, which happened very often. Zavina Kulam, the up Dan Yohu. Everybody sold their mansions to get money, to buy money for wheat. And so eventually the wheat arrived, so the sellers no longer required. So what Rahman says, they could return the mansions to the owners. So they have in other words, they can buy them back. They can give back the money, and they take back their houses. And the reason was because when they made the deal for their land, there was actually a ship in the harbor with the wheat. So it was like Quebec close. They did do it. If it came in later, if there was no food, then it's a sale. But since the boat was in the harbor, they just didn't know about it. So therefore, they wouldn't have sold it if they had known, because they could have waited out until the boat came in. I think the union guys were holding up the boat. That's why they didn't. That's why they didn't. So therefore, the sales were there. That the ship was bringing the wheat was standing in the eddies of the river at the time of the sale. Therefore, it's not comparable to a case where the seller wishes to cover his land because development occurred after the sale. So something later on happened. Let's say he was able to find money. So that's no raya from there, what he did, because when he did it, they did it based upon that there was no wheat available. But once they found out the wheat was available before they bought the thing, they would have, it was a mekachtos for their part. But if it happened, if whatever the circumstances changed after they sold the property, then they're out of luck. If it's so that the sales of the mansions are rescinded, it turns out that you're hindering people from selling the lands in the future, since the buyer will be afraid to sell and may later avoid the sale. So Nachman said, is food shortage found every day? Of course not. In other words, it's an unusual thing that there's a food shortage. That's why really nullify the sales will not inhibit future commerce. Amarle, Shmuel says, if food shortages are indeed quite common in Nardoi. The law is Zabit if the land was sold because he needed the money, and it turned out he did not need the money. How do his view the sale rescinded? Because he found out he didn't. Yeah, it's like, he realized that what he had was not necessary to sell his land. He had food from another source. So the Mishnah, now the Mishnah in Sadi Zayin. So we have learned that deceased husband's estate is mortgaged for his widow's kasuba and sustenance. The Mishnah discusses how a woman can sell the estate in order to obtain the entitlements. Alma, Bain Rusin, Bain Minasuin, Mochera Shalom Bezin. She can sell it without getting permission from the Bezin, both if she was engaged and if she was actually married, within the Rusin. Rusin is the engagement, and the Suin is the actual marriage. So Shimon says, Mina Suin, from if she was in the Suin, is selling her estate, Mochera Shalom Bezin. If she was married already, so she may sell it without the court's permission. But if she was just engaged, only Bezin has the right to give permission to sell it. Because a woman who's just engaged and not married, she gets her ksuba, but she doesn't get mazonos. So therefore, she can only sell a woman who's just engaged and not actually married to her husband. She can only sell for her ksuba only in the court. And don't forget again, she can't sell it for anything else because she's not entitled to mazonos while she's just engaged. I guess she lives in her father's house, and her father is probably responsible to pay for her expenses. But the Gemara examines the Tanakama Bishlam if we say that it's understandable that we sell sustenance if he's married already without. A second, let me get the power. I get 1 second. I'm gonna lose my. Excuse me, 1 second here. Second here. This got me through. Okay. Okay. So now the Gemara is explain why why we're afraid if she sells it in Bezin. Why does we say you have to go to Bezin? Why doesn't she have to go to Bezin? So we'll go through all that now. So it is understandable that when she sells that she's Nesu and she's married already, fully married, that she doesn't have to go to because Mizona, because she's getting for sustenance. We cannot ask her to wait until the court has opportunity to consider her case. The court, it's not every day they can meet, and not every day they can take her case. So meanwhile, she has to have what to eat. But but if she was engaged only, my time, what's the reason allow her to sell a property without the court's authorization? So Marula said, we do not require her to appear before the court because of a favor. The Fished Autumn wrote says a person doesn't want his wife to have to go to disgrace to go to court and get approval, though she has to beg the court to give her money. It's a shame for her. So that's why they let her sell it on her own, and then she'll make the cheshbon for what she uses it for. What's the difference between Ula and Rabbi Yochanan? There's a difference between a case of divorce who sell the estate in order to collect her ksuba. So according to what it says that the reason we give her because her husband wants to find favor in her eyes, so he wants what's easier for her is a divorcee also requires rabbinic accord of the favor. Thus, Ula, she too is not required to appear before a court. Because a man doesn't want his wife to be disgraced by hearing court. He could care less about her. He divorced, he wants to get rid of her. So he doesn't care if she goes through embarrassment or not. So why do they say that she also does not have to appear in front of court to get her with Mazonas, I guess. But Mazonas, what does she get? What do we say she gets? Maybe her ksuba, her ksuba, because her ksuba, she doesn't, once she's divorced, I don't think she gets any ksuba, and doesn't get Mazonas anymore. The more we learn, crucial nimtir level based in course, Yochanan said that a divorced woman only can get the husband's estate used only through the court permission. So if she, because of that, he doesn't want her husband, his wife, to be divorced. He doesn't care about her ex-husband. According to divorce also requires rabbinic favor. Hence, she too should be exempt from coming to court in order to sell the Mishnah. So in other words, the favor doesn't come from her husband. The favor comes from the court. The Bezin doesn't like to see any woman have it to beg. That's why she doesn't have to go to court according to Rabbi Yochanan. So Homani, who's this like? Rabbi Shimon, who says that Mishnah that a Rus is required to appear before a court when selling the state of Ksuba. The more objection says to Rabbi Shimon, why it is even necessary. Tanale min Arusin lo simkor, from the Rusin. She was a widow from the state of Rusin and is selling the state to obtain Ksuba. She may not sell the estate except with approval of the court. Thus, Rabbi Shimon has already expounded the principle that a woman who was collecting ksuba must appear before a court. Why then would it be necessary for him to teach that the very next mission that divorce has the right only to the ksuba and not to sustenance must appear before the court? Apparently, then the ruling of the mission below reflects instead the view of our Tanakama, and nonetheless, a divorcee requires court approval and thus refutes ulaf for the same reason. So more defends they answer by arguing that the rulings of Shimon and so Ula is not refuted. Nevertheless, that the ruling is indeed necessary. Maudasem, I would have thought that by the word divorcee had not been taught, I would have thought Alma min Arusanu. It's a case of widow from Arusan where a court appearance is required. The widow, in other words, her husband died, but she's still engaged, which she was engaged. The fish for since her need and the act of the favor is not considerable. Grusha, however, in case of divorcee from the state of the Surin, the Nafish, since the need for the act of favor is considerable. So I might say that even Shimon holds necessary to excuse her from appearing in court to ensure that marriage finds favor in his eyes. The Morris says no. Hainami Tanina. This is also we learn that a divorce Masua requires court that we have to get permission for the court. We have a little word from Shimon. Kol she'ein mazonos, woman who has no right to support, and thus sells the state only to B'Ksuba, may sell the property only after consulting Bezdin. Lasuya Mai, to exclude Lav Lasuya Grusha. Does it not come to include a case of divorcee from the state of the Suid? They teach that she may not sell the state without the approval of the court. And according to the mission below, which also rules that divorce and the Suid must come to court, it's authored not by Rabbi Shimon, but by the Tanakhama. It's so that the Mishnah below proves that Ula's explanation of the Tanakh opposition is incorrect, where it says no. Lasuya Bigoreshes Phenogreshes, which she comes to exclude a woman who's divorced and not divorced. In other words, he gave her a get through the bill of a get in public domain, and the document falls closer to her than to him. So, however, if we are uncertain whether the get indeed fell closer to her, the woman's status as a divorce is in doubt. So, therefore, because of the doubt, is he divorced or not? The husband is responsible to pay her because it's not really a divorce. But I think he said here that see if he says you gracious or ain't gracious, like we just said, that is a suffix whether she's divorced or not divorced. So he has to pay her. He has to pay her both the ksuba and the sustenance. Or maybe I don't know if he has to pay the ksuba, because if it's a suffix, she's not divorced. If she doesn't know if she's divorced or not, then it's incumbent upon her to bring a proof that she's divorced when she collects ksuba. But the sustenance, she certainly can collect the sustenance, because it's how else is she going to live. But as far as giving ksuba, since maybe she's not divorced and therefore he doesn't have to pay her the ksuba, maybe she would get that. I think the more I'll say that, I mean, I think I saw yesterday. So now, Kotoshma, Ishem Shemo Cheres Shalo Bebezdin, just like your widow may sell her late husband to take ksuba to the court, Kach Yorshin Yorshik Ksuba, so the inheritors of her ksuba, Mochim Shalo Bebezdin, they can sell without consulting the Bezdin. Bishlam and Domer the Fishay Nona Road says she does has a Ishto Bezdin. That's why she doesn't have to go to Bezdin. But because a man doesn't want the wife to go to the Bezdin, for can we say that just as he is not pleased, let this widow be disgraced, also Yorshim Nami Lo Nichalei the Kanar? Although we don't say that, even the heirs do not require that brother's approval. Ella, Lamandar Bishim Chiva, but according to one who says that the reason the widow doesn't go to court because of favor, Yoresha Mahi, what kind of consideration is there that the Yorshim should be have favor in the father's eyes? Whereas Tirgama Ola, Kagon Yorshta Bito O Achosa, case where the widow's unmarried daughter or unmarried sister inherit her ksuba. So, so he says, if there are no male heirs and they're married, and their unmarried daughter or sister inherit the ksuba, in such case, there is indeed a fear that appearing in court would sour the female's heirs' attitude towards marriage. According to this answer, our concern for women viewing marriage favorably applies only to this particular type of woman. Accordingly, if the unmarried female heir happened to marry before she actually collected the ksuba, she would have to sell the property only with the court's approval. Okay, that's to the Mishnah. Okay, you say the Mishnah now. If a woman sold part of her ksuba, or entire ksuba, and or she pledged. See, mishkana is the pledge to mashkan, from the word mashkan. She pledged her entire ksuba for a security for a loan or a part of it. Or she gave the entire ksuba as a gift to another person, only a part of it. She said the remainder of the ksuba, the remainder of the money that's for her ksuba, for her to collect, she has to go. She has to sell only in court approval. But the Chachamim say, she mailed her sell her ksuba 4 or 5 times. She can, as long as it's for the bezonos, if she, let's say her ksuba was worth $1,000 and she sold it, then she collected $200 each time. So until she collected the full amount, could be 5 times, she can still sell it without getting court permission. Because so when she sells the property for assessment, she should write the zonos macharti. I sold this land for pay support. Ugrushalo simkor el bezin. The divorcee may not sell a husband's land except with approval of a court. Masnisan, who's a Mishnah like? Rabbi Shimon, who says the time who learned mocha ksubasa, if a woman sold her ksuba, bishkana ksubasa, or she pledged her ksuba as security loan, also ksubasa potiki lacher, or she made the ksuba as a guarantee for another creditor. So potiki comes to the word apo tehe koi. Apo, here you will require your repayment. Apo, from this land or this whatever this is, whether it's a mashkin or if it's a piece of land. Apo tehe koi. That's what that stands for. So, so if she paid her ksuba as a poti for another creditor, she no longer has a right to support herself because it's like she gave it up. But these are the words of Meir. Shimon says, so even though she did not sell or pledge her security, her entire ksuba, but sold only half of it, of the bizonoseh, she lost her support. According to Shimon, that woman forfeits her sustenance even though a partial collection of her ksuba. This is the Tana common Mishnah say. The Gemara points out seeming contradiction between Bryce and another. The Maimer Rabbi Shimon Soverle law the mixes kesef with that kesef. If Shimon says that we do not so a portion of silver is regarded as silver as complete silver. Rabbanan Savri and Rabbanan Savri the mixes kavawi. That a portion of silver is regarded as entire silver. So it means like this, that kesef yishkol kamhar b'sulos. He should weigh our silver according to the marriage contract of the sulos. The marriage contract mentioned here is the ksuba. So according to the rabbis, the sages are mentioned. If a woman collected part of her ksuba, so that only portion remains according to the corresponding to a portion of the silver. Nevertheless, she is treated an account of the uncollected payments as though as though her full ksuba is still owed. Hence, she retains the right to the sustenance. According to Shimon, however, it was only only a share of her husband's ksuba, a portion of the silver remains uncollected. She is not treated as if she is still owed entire ksuba, and therefore she forfeits her right to support. So machlokas whether a partial payment of silver is considered payment in full or not. That's what the machlokas is. But we heard different opposite in Tanya, but isha b'psuleha, a woman who's that's what it says. A kohen gadol has to marry a isha b'psuleha, a woman who's a complete basula. Prat bogerish shekolo b'suleha, to the exclusion of a bogerish whose basula is dissipated. Divrei Meir, Abiyosar Rishon Machshirin b'bogeris. See, when a woman turns 12 and a half, so even though she's still a psula, even though she's never been with anybody, but there's a certain physical change in her that it's not the same as if someone, a Nara, a 12-year-old, which Lucy turns 12 and a half, there's a physical change in her body. So the question is, whether when it says that a kohen gadol has to marry a psula, does she have to marry a full ksuba or she be a partial ksuba? And that's what the machlokas is. That whether that when it says in the Torah that she has to, kohen gadol has to marry a woman who's a full psula, that's when everything is the physical being is intact, not when she becomes a bogeris, when physically she has a change in it, which is not as strong as a basula, as a nara. So that's machlokas where the kohen gadol has to take a 12-year-old, or you can even take a 12-and-a-half-year-old. So the Gemara says hasa b'kroi pligi. So that's why it's related to. We want to say if a woman got partial from her silver, whether it's considered once he takes part of it, is it considered like getting paid totally or not? That's what the machlokas is there. That's how they compare it to this one, to kohen gadol married ksuba. But Marisol basula, I feel it mixes basulim. That the Torah could have used a partial for kohen gadol basuleha, but the Torah wrote elaborate expression basuleha, her virginity, to teach adika kula basulim. No woman is eligible to wear a kohen gadol unless she has all of her basulas, because it says basuleha, and since the Torah actually writes bifsuleha in her basula, adding the prepositional letter beis, bedracha ein, if a girl previously engaged in bia kadarko, she is prohibited. Shalo kadarko lo, but if she, I mean the other way around. If she's salo kadarko, if she lived with somebody unnatural way, she's not disqualified. That's what she's only. So that's what a man can take a woman who if she has to have had relations kadarko in order for a kohen could not marry her. If she does kalo kadarko, then she was. If she does kalo kadarko, then she is permitted to kohen gadol. So some of that Rabbi Shimon says it's the opposite. Basula shlema mashma has to be a complete basula whose hymen is entirely intact. Basuleha afil b'ksasa basula. Even if it was a partial basula, she still retains her basulas and she can marry a kohen. So, like I say, the only time she can not marry a kohen is if she had a bia shaloka darko, according to Rabbi Lozer. Oh, that's it.
Saturday night?
Huh?
Are we going to learn Saturday night?
Yeah. What time want to learn on Saturday night?
8:30.
Okay.
Oi,
Let me get the last slide there on the other side, because it'll end the thing. So with expansion of Bisuleha, she called Bisuleha Kayomin, her her basula is intact. Bein kadarko, bein shlo kadarko. In other words, that's the machlokas, whether bein kadarko, kadarko, Kohen Gadol said. All right, shut it off now. I say, you know, Mark Manimal's favorite saying, you know that. Yeah, in Yeshiva, the Rebbe asked a kid.
Look, Kadarko, yeah, you know, in Kadarko, you know.
Yeah, Kadarko, you know.
Yes, 8:30. What time is it over? I think it works. 8:30 works.
8:30 for you, Mario.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good Shabbos,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Shkoyach.